Stephanie Pomboy, founder of Macro Mavens. She joins us to kind of untangle the insanity here. I'm not, Stephanie, I have to say, you're one of the very few people who called this early and said there are going to be tragic and distorting effects of flooding the American economy with fake money from the Federal Reserve. And I think you're right.
Yeah, well, it was hardly a radical conclusion to draw when you slather on layers and layers of debt on an economy and encourage people to take reckless risk, and then you ratchet up interest rates at the fastest rate in history. I mean, God knows, the surprise is that it took this long for the bodies to float to the surface. And honestly, Tucker, this banking thing is particularly remarkable because of the level of impunity that the banks evidenced. And you've talked about, this whole diversity, equity, inclusion and the woke agenda and this idea that, banking doesn't need to be boring. You used to want to get away from the banker at the cocktail party. Now he's, throwing confetti and he's got a lampshade on his head and he's the life of the party. But the reality is these problems at Silicon Valley Bank and Signature, their pursuit of these woke agendas may make them, let's hope, exceptional. I mean, hopefully these videos aren't pervasive to the entire banking sector, although they may very well be. But ultimately, the entire banking sector did the same thing, and that is that they watched their deposit base wither over the last 12 months while the Fed was raising interest rates, because people like you and me looked at it and said, why am I putting my money in the bank and getting zero when I can buy a treasury bill and get 3, 4, 5% as the Fed kept raising rates? So their deposit base was shrinking. At the same time, all those assets that they held that you talked about last night, the treasuries and whatnot, were declining in value. And they sat there and they did nothing about it, Tucker. And they didn't just do that for 1 month or 2 months, which might be excusable. But 6, 9 months go by and the problems are getting worse and worse, and they did nothing. Why did they do nothing? Because they knew all along when this day came, the bailout would be there for them. So the impunity of this banking system is beyond, but they've been taught there are no consequences for mismanagement and this ridiculous, all these ridiculous woke priorities, which have, you should actually, when someone comes in and presents a business idea and wants a loan, you should be looking at whether it's a viable business model, not whether it's, some sweaty teenager in a hoodie with some harebrained scheme that you can throw money at without consequence. But this is where we are. And sadly, I think we're just at the beginning of this, because the companies that SVB and these other banks lent money to are all going to go belly up, just like the clients of SVB started to do.
Hopefully they'll spare us the moral lectures. They already pay half the tax rate we do in a lot of cases. It's a little much, I would say. Stephanie Pomboy, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Tucker.
Last night.
My name is Beatriz Acevedo, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Sumo Wealth. I was born in Tijuana, Mexico. I am a very proud border girl who had the privilege to grow up with the best of both worlds. I went to school in San Diego. I went to UCSD. I have a lot of scars from my days going across the border. I remember I got this memo, and it just said that all my shows were canceled. And it was a time where women, never men, were put into something they call the refrigerator. If they felt like you had a lot of power, they would just put you there to cool you off for a while.